Sometimes, as consumers, we can be enthralled by advertisements on a particular product without looking under the surface at the ingredients and understanding their physiological role and the integrity of the company that produces it. In this video, we examine the popular product Emergen-C. Here is the Emergen-C ingredient list. Notice the first ingredient. Fructose, maltodextrin, citric acid, malic acid, contains 2% of acacia, beta-carotene, color, glycine, L-aspartic acid, natural flavors, orange juice, concentrate, color and flavor, orange oil, silicon dioxide, tartaric acid, tocopherols to preserve freshness. Emergen-C has become a popular supplement, but a detailed evaluation of the ingredients and their effects paints a different picture. We will look at just one suspicious ingredient, but this story has many suspects. To understand why the first ingredient, fructose in Emergen-C, may not be for you and may cause many negative systemic effects as well as allergic responses in specific individuals depending upon the dose, especially in the long term, we must first understand the uric acid cycle and its effects on health. Then we will examine the producers of this product whose integrity is in question. We will keep this simple, and it will become clear as we explain the most important ingredient, fructose, and its systemic effects, and its connection with the uric acid cycle. The genetic mutations that aided survival were formed during the Middle Miocene extinction 15 million years ago after a pair of asteroids struck the European landmass. According to records, this nuclear winter lasted for several 100,000 years and killed off the apes that could not survive. According to history, those who did were able to do so because of metabolic adaptations that silenced an enzyme called urate oxidase, or uricase, in certain apes, which helped them store energy. This enzyme, which is present in most mammals, degrades uric acid. This gave them a survival advantage at that time. It is well known that during prolonged fasting or starvation, both birds and mammals undergo rapid weight loss, followed by a slower, longer period of fat depletion. After that fat is used up, the body begins breaking down proteins. This degradation of protein gets metabolized to uric acid. This gave them a survival advantage at that time. It was particularly advantageous during prolonged fasting or starvation. It acts like caffeine to wake up hibernating animals to go out and forage for food. Uric acid helps recover adipose or fat tissue, which is basically stored energy. Let me reiterate, uric acid helps recover adipose or fat tissue. In today's world, with humans not having to forage for food, but having access to food 24/7, that can cause and does cause obesity, in which fructose plays a role. What's the first ingredient in Emergen-C? Fructose. However, fast forward to today, the dark side of uric acid shows Mr. Hyde, and it's related to fructose. Elevated uric acid significantly affects what today is called metabolic syndrome, which is the consequence of insulin resistance. The adverse effects of this scenario are obesity, stroke, dementia, sleep apnea, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and more. Uric acid in elevated levels can affect your joints and cause gouty arthritis. In a study of 14,000 Americans, uric acid was linearly correlated with insulin production, fasting insulin levels, insulin resistance, and body mass index. It is also correlated with increased inflammation and production of inflammatory cytokines. So, when UA levels are elevated, it is considered a pro-oxidant. Pro-oxidants are compounds that initiate, facilitate, or accelerate lipid oxidation, which causes fatty acids to go rancid. Considering fatty acids in the body, tissues, and cell membranes are very important. Fatty acid oxidation and rancidity are the worst possible scenarios for health-conscious individuals, which Emergen-C is advertised for. Since UA levels are connected with obesity and fructose affects UA levels, let's connect the dots. We must ask ourselves what has occurred within the last 40 years that has caused an explosion of obesity, which is now common, and fructose, as we will see, plays a role. Since hyperuricemia, which according to the NIH, National Library of Medicine, Hyperuricemia is defined as an elevated serum uric acid level. Elevated serum uric acid is present in an estimated 38 million Americans, and the incidence is increasing worldwide as developing countries adopt more Western diets. This is a bold statement. However, elevated uric acid levels in genetically predisposed individuals are uncommon. So, what else is going on? Let's look a little further at uric acid's metabolic pathways. Since we see obesity as a consequence of elevated uric acid levels, there are three metabolic pathways that trigger that response. One is starvation, which is not common in America and does not lead to obesity. Colonic bacteria can convert some amino acids to ammonia, which is converted to urea or glutamine in the liver. However, urea is expelled through the urinary tract, so that's not an issue, especially if liver enzyme function is normal. The second pathway for UA formation is purine breakdown from massive cell die-off, which can form UA when DNA and RNA are released. This can occur with necrotic injuries, cancer, and hemolytic anemia, but it does not explain obesity. Remember, we are using the consequential obesity response, which is from elevated UA levels. The third pathway is the depletion of ATP, which is the main energy source formed in our cells, the mitochondria. ATP is the energy unit for cell function. Depletion of ATP robs the energy from the cell, which can trigger inflammation. So, what can cause this ATP depletion and redirect energy to finally be stored as fat? You guessed it. Fructose. References are given to prove this point. Now let's look at fructose, the first ingredient in Emergen-C. In his book Enteroimmunology, Dr. Charles A. Lewis, PhD, explains that most cells cannot transport fructose across their membranes and cannot use it as an energy source. Only liver cells called hepatocytes can use fructose, and this is where most is concentrated. Interestingly, once in the liver, phosphate from ATP is rapidly converted to sugar. Here's the difference between fructose and glucose. Unlike glucose, there is no negative feedback mechanism to the brain when ingesting fructose. A large load of fructose will deplete the liver ATP. What's important here is that this process creates uric acid with fructose present, and we know elevated uric acid levels lead to many metabolic effects related to the aforementioned response. To name a few, hypertension, kidney damage, erectile dysfunction, and stroke are all due to a reduction in nitric oxide availability due to fructose loads. Elevated triglycerides, which are fat formed from unused sugar, also occur and can lead to a fatty liver and weight gain. The list of adverse events in this scenario is too long to mention. The story's moral is that the more fructose is consumed, the more the liver is affected. The body sees fructose as a toxin. The liver has to produce an overabundance of enzymes to deal with this toxic load, stressing the most important organ in the body. Note that uric acid levels rise 40% within an hour of drinking a product containing fructose. Of course, daily use keeps UA levels high. As advertised by the producer of this product, individuals can use this product for health reasons and utilize it daily. Data from the third National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey of 14,000 people showed a linear increase in uric acid levels with the number of high fructose corn syrup HFCS consumed a day. They noted there was no correlation between UA levels and regular sugar for drinks. It's been known since the 1960s that NASA knew cholesterol levels rose, with only 12% of calories being derived from fructose. Since the brain cannot use fructose, it obviously cannot be detected as a fuel source, so there is no downregulation of hunger as with glucose. The pancreas does not respond to high fructose levels. It is 2.3 times sweeter than glucose, but goes through the system undetected, affecting liver and pancreas function. At the same time, the hunger switch does not turn off as with glucose. At least with real fruit such as apples, the fiber slows the sugar insulin surge and the brain detects it, so proper feedback and hunger can be switched off. Uric acid formation has to begin somewhere, and it's with calories. Fructose is a caloric source with special effects. At least glucose from various sources can be stored as glycogen for fuel that will be needed. When the liver is full, blood sugar rises, insulin from the pancreas helps cells store it, and the hunger switch is turned off by the hormone ghrelin. Not so with fructose. As stated, the brain does not detect fructose, the pancreas does not react to it, and insulin is not released according to elevated blood sugar levels. It is the invisible invader in our system. So fructose, unlike glucose, does not get stored in organ tissue and muscle. In the modern Western diet, it is common to overconsume this product, especially in children and teens. When fructose enters the body, its metabolic cycle is to produce fat, period. Alcohol actually increases the efficiency of creating excess fat, and fructose causes fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease is associated with abdominal obesity, insulin resistance, and eventually type 2 diabetes, inflammation, and mitochondrial dysfunction. There could not be a worse scenario for our children. Simply put, fructose cannot be stored in the liver as fuel, as glucose does. It goes right into the formation of fat. Fructose exposure induces the production of lipogenic proteins, which increases the efficiency of fat production. Some of the triglycerides produced by fructose are packed into VLDL, very low-density lipoproteins, cholesterol particles for transport to, you guessed it, your fat cells. Particles that are not carried to fat cells turn into LDL, low-density lipoproteins particles, which are the type that causes arteriosclerosis and ischemic heart disease, depending upon their particle size. Fructose also affects the hormone leptin produced in adipose cells. This hormone tells the brain there's enough food consumed and that fat cells, adipose cells, do not need more sustenance. Fructose causes leptin resistance, and leptin resistance causes obesity, which induces the production of the inflammatory cytokine tumor necrosis factor alpha, or TNFA, which we know now is involved in many disease processes. So, is this product dangerous to my health? Simply, soft drinks are not food. They are not supplements for health, especially if they contain fructose, a major contributor to obesity. So we have shown that Emergen-C is not as healthy as advertisements would like you to believe. Consumption should be from a quality product that balances blood sugar. An example would be a product with very low organic cane sugar, no more than 5 grams per serving or none at all, with a blood sugar stabilizing natural plant source such as stevia, along with nutrients that support liver and kidney function, supports MTHFR genotypes, provides electrolytes, minerals, and amino acids that affects the immune system in a healthy way. Hydrex formula does all of this. A quick look at the wording. Natural flavors in Emergen-C should be expanded upon. Natural flavors are often associated with health, but this is not necessarily true. What does this term actually mean? Since the FDA has not officially defined it, it can be used to describe almost any type of food. According to the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, Code of Federal Regulations, natural flavors are created from substances extracted from these plant or animal sources. 1. Spices, fruit or fruit juice, vegetables or vegetable juice, edible yeast, herbs, bark, buds, root leaves, or plant material dairy products, including fermented products, meat, poultry or seafood, eggs. Sounds good. According to an article by Healthline medically reviewed by Imashi Fernando, Mississippi RDN, CDCS, and written by Franziska Spritzler, updated on April 24, 2023, they mention that it may seem healthier to choose foods that contain natural flavors and avoid those with artificial flavors. However, in terms of chemical composition, the two are remarkably similar. The chemicals in a particular flavor may be naturally derived or synthetic. Artificial flavors sometimes contain fewer chemicals than natural flavors. In addition, vegetarians and vegans may unknowingly be ingesting animal-derived natural flavors in processed foods. Natural flavors don't appear to be any healthier than artificial ones. The article says natural flavors are complex mixtures created by specially trained food chemists known as flavorists. However, members of the Flavor and Extract Manufacturers Association, FEMA, a trade group that evaluates the safety of flavor additives in the United States, have been criticized by nutrition experts and public interest groups for not disclosing safety data on natural flavors. Although some public interest groups have criticized FEMA for not disclosing information on the safety of natural flavors, most of these flavors are considered safe when consumed in moderation. But if you consume this product daily, that will be considered a daily intake, not a dose within moderation. This should be considered. Now that we know the detrimental effects of fructose, the vagueness concerning the wording of natural flavors and whether this product should be consumed daily, let's look at the history of Emergen-C and the present producer. The Emergen-C product line was introduced in 1978 by the Hydrex Company, which was established as a private company in 1972 and focused on vitamin supplements containing vitamin C. The company was acquired by Pfizer in 2012. A brief history of Pfizer should help one take a different view of whether to consume a product produced by this company, because honesty and integrity are most important when producing consumable products in the name of health. In 2021, there was a major recall on Emergen-C. In October 2021, GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare recalled certain batches of EmergenC energy release and immunity support food supplement Super Orange 8 sachets due to the presence of 2-chloroethanol, a reaction product of ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide is an ingredient that is not authorized for use in the EU. The affected batches had lot number GU 393 and a best before date of October 23, 2021. The below batches of EmergenC energy release and immunity support are being recalled due to the presence of 2-chloroethane, which is a recognized reaction product of ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide is a pesticide not permitted for use in foods sold in the EU, but approved for use by other countries outside the EU. Although the consumption of the contaminated product does not pose an acute risk to health that we know of, there is an increased risk if contaminated food is consumed over a long period of time. Therefore, exposure to this substance needs to be minimized. Point-of-sale recall notices will be displayed in stores supplied with the implicated batches. Oversight and proper screening of raw materials need to be re-evaluated by the producers of Emergen-C. Let's look further at the loss of integrity by Pfizer. Justice Department announces largest healthcare fraud settlement in its history, September 2, 2009. Pfizer to pay $2.30 billion for fraudulent marketing from Washington. American pharmaceutical giant Pfizer Inc. and its subsidiary Pharmacia and Upjohn Company Inc. have agreed to pay $2.3 billion, the largest healthcare fraud settlement in the history of the Department of Justice, to resolve criminal and civil liability arising from the illegal promotion of certain pharmaceutical products. Pfizer Inc. is well known for its lack of integrity in its product production management in the pharmaceutical world and has come under severe scrutiny. Pfizer has agreed to settle more than 10,000 cases, accusing it of hiding the cancer risks of its Zantac heartburn drug, according to people familiar with the deal. What is the largest criminal lawsuit against Pfizer? One of its subsidiaries agreed to pay $2.3 billion to settle civil and criminal charges regarding its marketing of the drug Bextra. As part of the settlement, Pfizer pled guilty to a felony violation of the Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act for marketing the drug with the intent to deceive and mislead the public. January 12, 2022. An article in Reuters mentioned that the U.S. state of Kansas on June 17, 2024, sued Pfizer, accusing the company of misleading the public about its COVID-19 vaccine by hiding risks while making false claims about its effectiveness. We focused on uric acid and fructose, how they both play a role in disease processes. Other ingredients in Emergen-C are questionable, such as the statement natural flavors, which is confusing wording since natural flavors may not be natural at all. Titanium dioxide should not be consumed, which is common in many supplement formulas. Titanium dioxide is used in the production process to prevent sticking. In our next video, we will scrutinize natural flavors claimed in Emergen-C and compare so-called natural flavors to synthetic flavorings. Natural flavorings should be questioned in these types of products. Are we to trust a health product produced by a company with unscrupulous morals? You be the judge.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. Our products and more content can be found at hydrexsupplements.com.